Hey, welcome everybody to Thursday, August 27th. Joining me today is Chris Sharp, the founder of Black Wolf Heliops. And you probably know me myself is Chris Montana, CEO and co-founder of IAMed. And what we're going to talk about this morning is we're going to discuss a little bit about the all new aviation. And we love this course because it's phenomenal. And what does it do? So, when we look at things that make things successful, with the Aircrew operations and survival course, we wanted to bring out a course that we felt like crew members, could actually learn and take some valuable learning points away. So, Chris is the lead and primary instructor for this course. We have this course releasing next month for all of you guys that are excited. And what are the main objectives with this course, Chris? What are we trying to go after here for the layperson or the air medical crewman that is looking to kind of exceed, or the agency that's looking for that solution and not that same boring CTS animated kind of BS of the guy peeing on his leg like 5 days later after being stuck out in the woods? I think we've all kind of gone through some of those programs, but what makes this unique?
So obviously we have the mandatory requirements through the FAA, CAMES, so we've ticked all those boxes. So it appeals to people who are currently in the trade or new hires. It's done slightly differently, maybe slightly different to what your IAMed audience is used to. So I'm not stood in front of a PowerPoint. We've gone out, we were flying the other day. If I want to talk about the rotor system, for example, it's me with a GoPro on top of a helicopter showing you a rotor system. But the parts that, because usually, unfortunately, a lot of these courses are written by pilots, no offense to pilots. We don't need to know that depth. So it's aiming at, there's the ACOS is 10 modules, each sub-modules. Some are 6 minutes long, some are 10 minutes, some are 20, depending on the subject. And the overall aim is to take anybody and so they become competent, current, and confident on any helicopter. All helicopters are the same, and we go through that and some other key principles.
Yeah, I mean, and it helps educate, right? So I can tell you, when I was a new crew member, right, we get all the clinical training, we get set up to be clinically successful, but I can tell you my aviation side or operational side of training when it came to the actual aircraft was very, very minimum. I didn't, other than my personal knowledge coming into the position, reviewing flaps, reviewing the turbine, the N1, the N2, the rotor system, the rotor shaft, the transmission, the radios, the GPS, all of those different components are some of these things just aren't covered very well in new hire orientation. And so when you look at some of these things, this course is actually designed to meet and exceed the CAMES 12th edition for, your annual recurring operations and safety for agencies or air medical companies. And so that was one of the reasons for developing this course, but we also wanted to make it high quality, right? So we wanted to make the applicability as real world as possible. And so you really can't get any more real world than having Chris Sharp out in Guatemala in the jungle flying around and really utilizing video and photos and along with the course design to meet those objectives. So you can almost feel like you're in that, almost going into that IIMC kind of situation. You could feel like, hey, if I was doing my aircraft pre-flight checks, what do I need to look at? What are these different systems? How do you think this is going to benefit that crew member?
And as part of that is, for example, the module 1.2, we look at the cockpit. We use the 206 Long Ranger because it's a fantastic training tool, because it's very simple. And through the modules, we do compare to like the H145 from Airbus, Sea Kings, Black Hawks. There's a Black Hawk rotor head in there. Once you understand the key principles of a 206, you can identify them on your own aircraft. We look at where you find this in the flight manual. And the whole idea is to give the viewer the experience of being stood in front of the helicopter. Let's look at the cockpit. There's a bunch of dials and instruments, and aviation's a marathon, not a sprint. So let's start with what's going to affect you as an aeromedical crew member. One's the altimeter, because you may need to adjust ET costs, for example. We may have a pneumothorax. And the other one, double IMC, inadvertent instrumental meteorological conditions. So let's look at the artificial horizon or horizon indicator and how that functions, what the pilot does and when he does it. So that's two instruments that you could, and there's a multitude of different cockpit photos. This is where those instruments are. Once you know what they look like, they all operate the same. This is how they're set. This is what you shouldn't allow your pilot to do and why. And it's to give the viewer that kind of they're actually sat there close enough with the video is close enough so that you can see the various parts rather than an animated cartoon.
Yeah. And I think, animation's great and all, but, with the videos, and I've seen a lot of them, and it gives you that perspective, like you're right next to me, Chris, and I'm in the aircraft in the co-pilot seat, and we're going through the instruments together and going through, hey, this is what your horizon indicator means. This is what your altitude indicator means. This is what your GPS is going to do. So it provides you with that kind of like, it feels like you're there. And then when we're on the outside, it kind of feels like you're just sitting there, like we were down in Guatemala talking about, hey, this is the different parts and the mechanics of the turbine or the aircraft, and going through those systems systematically. So that way, the end goal is you feel like a more confident provider, right? You understand the machine that you guys are using, your vehicle, you understand that a little bit more. I think it adds another layer to safety. When you think about the level of safety, if I understand cognitively what is going on, what does a chip light mean? What does an N1, flame out? What's an N1 high temp? What is that? Where in the combustion chamber is this all occurring? And if you have that wherewithal, it brings it up. Why do you think, what was the passion in driving this course? I know you and I kind of got together and we felt like, the industry just kind of wasn't having something out there, and we get a lot of questions, but for you, why is this so passionate?
Obviously part and parcel of when I won the Helicopter Association Salute to Excellence Safety Award is I'm an air crewman and a paramedic, but I've reverted back more to my chief air crewman role. One of the big things, especially when IMED, Heavy Lighter Helmet, all you guys came down for gear 2019, there's a noticeable gap, even with experienced providers, in knowledge to support the pilot, because without the pilot, we're in kind of trouble. And part of my mission, which is why I founded Black Wolf, was to show people the value of being a crew member, irrespective of whether you're doing aeromedical, search and rescue, cargo, VIP. The safety aspects of having a competent crew member just increases your operational and your company's operational safety standard no end. Because the more competent you are, the more confident you are when to notice that something's wrong, and more likely to say when something's wrong, to support the pilot. Because at the end of the day, you may have a really big organization supporting you. They're not getting in the helicopter with you. Remember that. There's 3 of you, maybe 4 of you. You're on your own. And how we support the pilot through knowledge, maybe, and this is why I've done it, and I say throughout the modules, this is not for pilots, it's not for mechanics. If you want to go that level, go and be one. This is so, for example, you just said, if you get a compressor stall through going through this module, you know exactly where it is, how important that compressor is, and then what part of the checklist and where it is, so that you can have the page ready, because the pilots, aviate, navigate, communicate. You can then support the pilot by reading the checklist, crew resource management, and it just gives you that team effect in the aircraft.
Yeah, it really brings around it operationally, right? I don't expect the pilot to understand my role as a clinician, because they're not really doing patient care, but they do understand kind of how the O2 ports work and how some of the equipment in the back works, the medical equipment, especially how it interfaces with the aircraft. I think it's just as important for us as air medical crewmen to understand how these different systems integrate with the aircraft and my function and role within all of that. I know for some of when I was formerly flying, we would fly up left seat with the pilot, and it was my role and responsibility to plug in the GPS coordinates. And if it was a scene call, pull up the radio frequencies, understanding that, hey, if we had to do a GPS approach, how to program the Garmin to set up the pilot for a GPS approach so he can aviate, navigate, and communicate. It takes that workload, that cognitive workload off of them. And I become a functional crew member by, having the ability to call out the horizon, how to call out the altitude and our descent or rotor RPMs if you're in auto rotation. Those are all things that can make the difference in a situation, especially a critical situation when you're in the air. I also think, through my experience, and I'm sure your experience as well, Chris, when we look at training new hires and new preceptees, as they come in, every preceptor kind of has their own little way of how they start out with, hey, when you walk up to the aircraft for the first time with a crew member, this is what you want to look at. This is how you do your walk around. But it's not very organized. And each individual kind of has their own kind of how they feel like this course, what gives validity to this course? Why is this course valid?
Well, obviously I've had all the modules checked by 2 flight instructors for accuracy, and they're FAA and Aeronautical Civil instructors, so double-hatted. It follows the curriculum through the flight regulations, which are covered in Module 1. These are the documents you should be familiar with. Everything in aviation is written down. There's nothing new, maybe new systems, but we've had Chuck Yeager, we've had the right stuff, we've moved on since then. And it's done in a logical approach. Obviously, part of my safety award was I was the project manager for the first ACLS air ambulance here. So I know what new hires go through the first time you put the turbines on, turn the rotors, there's that nervous. So it's all in a methodical. So let's understand the aircraft, let's understand the risk management, the crew resource management, and understand what those terms mean, because they're very often overcomplicated. We look at how to brief, how to debrief. You obviously know I'm big on debriefs. Weather, what source do you get your weather from? I'm not going to show you a load of apps. This is the official source for the United States, the FAA, but you won't understand it because it'll come as a METAR, as a TAF miss. What is a NOTAM? And then we move progressively from the crew room. So what do you wear? Why do we wear flight suits? Do you wear a vest? Do you carry survival gear? If not, you'll find out why you need to. Our pre-launch, pre-takeoff checks, because they're slightly different. Not looking at the medical stuff, we all know how to account for a controlled drug. How we fit our medical in with the pilot and the aircraft's needs. Duties in flight, routine operations, so like landing, what we're looking for, shape, size, overshoot, to communicate with the pilot. Refueling, so the video is, there's a common, for example, misconception, hot refueling means the rotors are turning. Actually, it means the engines are on. There's hot refueling or rotors running refuel, they're different. But there's a video of one to show it's a big no-no in the USA, but it's like, yeah, well, you can do it as long as there's roles and responsibilities, you've got protocols defined, they're all there for a reason. Patient loading, who loads the patient feet first? Under the rotor disc, so the patient gets all the dust up their nose and in their eyes. And then we move to the emergencies. So crew resource management, equipment failure, medical, aircraft. And then when it goes really, really wrong, we're going to look at, as best as we can through either some statistics and video, survival, both land and in water. Everyone will see you going upside down in a swimming pool.
Drown proofing is what I call it.
I call it fun because I'm the instructor.
I call it equally as fun. I thought it was fun. I think some of the other people did not enjoy it as much as I did. Yeah. I had experience with doing Hewitt training and water training, so it helps out a little bit.
It's basically a condensed. You go back to the training. If you think and I'll use the example of a UK military helicopter crewman doing commando support. So all they're doing is flying troops, they're flying cargo. Their training is 1.5 years before they go operational. So they know they do everything but the pilot, but fly. That's kind of my career track. And it's to give people, my biggest pet hate is when people, it's not my job. Or the pilot will go mental if he saw me pop the panel. Well, we don't need to open panels if you know what's behind it, but there may be a panel that you should check. So it's doing it from the approach of this is what crewmen check, but I also tell you why you check it and the consequences of if you don't check it.
Yeah, I think it's great, right? Because it gives you the education to be what we call a functional air medical crewman, right? I can be an air medical crewman, but in the eyes of the FAA, until I have that FAA 133, I'm really just a passenger, right? I'm just a passenger. I really can't actively, unless there's a GOM and there's an exception, I can't actively navigate. I can't actively communicate. I can't help the pilot with any of his roles or responsibilities or his cognitive offload or assist with that. This is why I love this course and the way we developed it. So just to kind of recap, we start out with understanding the aircraft, the operations, the mechanics behind that. And then that moves into understanding the systems and how they implement. And then crew resource management and mission planning. So we understand how to plan missions, how to read weather, how to understand some of these aviation terms like NOTAMs and what is a METAR. A lot of people don't understand how to read a METAR. They just look at I'm just going to pull up my iPhone weather app and it says it's going to be partly cloudy today, right? Maybe I see some active weather or some of radar weather, but we don't really understand and can read like a pilot can around. And this is where this course helps to define that. And then we go into the emergencies, the flight part of it. It's like, hey, how do you flight as you're flying? How do you load patients up? What things should you consider? Survivability, what's in your survival bag? We also look at, hey, when you have a failure, what is your role and responsibility in augmenting the pilot at that point to help mitigate as much of the risk or the environment as possible? And I think those are all very, very important points. And that's why I love this course. The course is also designed to meet the CAMES 12 standard. It currently meets the 11th standard. It also meets the FAA 133 standard. So you will get a certificate that qualifies you as an FAA 133 air crewman with this course. I think it's important to understand that. This is a course that we're going to provide via closed door. So for those agencies out there that might be listening, this is something that we can have the team come out to your location and provide this training annually in person or on demand, which is going to give you guys the opportunity to continue to come back to this. You'll have 1 year's access to this course. So even if your agency may not support something like this or provide it, we're going to try to make it extremely affordable for you guys out there and air medical crewmen, because it is on you to elevate your game. We can't be complacent. Not all organizations are going to provide all the tools that you're going to need to be successful. At least that's been my experience. I've had to go out and get additional tools to help myself become successful. And so this course achieves all of those missions. The most important thing, I think, when you look at this is how it ties into a teaser that we're going to bring into. So let's talk a little bit about the Flight Academy right now and what we kind of have going on with that, because this course does tie into that Flight Academy, right?
It does. I'm kind of excited about this. I know most of your guys and most of your instructors are like, do you need a help?
Yes, all the instructors here at IMED are jumping all over to be an instructor with this course.
Yeah, so
but essentially the way we built the ACOS course is to help augment our new Flight Academy course. So the ACOS course will be coming out and available, I believe next month is what we're shooting for. So we're shooting for the 3rd week in September. To have this out and available for you guys to take advantage of. The registration for the Flight Academy will actually open up 01 October. And this is for the May 1st through 8th. This is actually going to be the first course we've actually run in the United States. We've run it abroad and overseas and ACOS, but this is going to be the first one that we're doing in the United States. We've partnered up with Acadian Air Med and the National EMS Academy based out of Lafayette, Louisiana, and M&S Safety for the T. Hewitt trainer. So this ACOS course, this is going to provide a hybrid into the Flight Academy. And with the Flight Academy, you will actually be able to go through the online portion of some of the ACOS course. You'll get 5 days hands-on in person with Chris and the team and instructors going over the aircraft, practicing mission planning, practicing weather, doing survival. You're going to spend a night or two out in the Louisiana swamp and bayou. So get ready, but you're going to practice real survival techniques, right? It's not meant to be comfortable. We're not going to obviously let you go out too far extreme, but we're going to make sure that you understand what it feels like to be in that environment, because it will kind of test you. And then we're going to wrap that all up together in a nice shiny bow. We're going to put together with the clinical side. So you'll be doing some of the flight medical provider course online, and then we're going to put all together as a AHA and NAMT skills day. So you'll be knocking out your ACLS, PALS, BLS, and your PHTLS all in one day, get your skills knocked out. Day 2 is going to be putting it all together clinically with some skills, breakout labs, finger thoracotomies, practicing with advanced airway, RSI scenarios, ventilator management, hemodynamic management. And then the very last day, we put it all together with a live scenario. So you'll have an ambulance scenario. You also have a scene scenario with an actual aircraft. We're very, very thankful to be partnered up with AirMed with this, but we'll have access to a 135 or a 145, depending on the platform that day. And we're going to be utilizing that throughout the training. So you get live train. You will understand what it feels like to load someone up underneath the rotor system. And the most important part is, when you finish this course, what are you going to get out of this? Well, this is mainly designed to augment and subsidize new hire training for air medical and critical care programs. And we do allow customers to come in if it's just a single customer, but you're going to get your FAA 133. You're also going to be set up to take your advanced certification exam, which is whether it be the CFRN or the FPC for the medics and nurses. We're going to have on-site testing. So you'll be able to take your written test or computer-based test. We're working on both solutions right now on site on your final day before you leave. So when you leave that course, you're going to be set up to have your FAA 133 air crewman. You're going to have all of your certs required by CAMES up to date and ready to go. And you're going to have your FPC or CFRN hopefully successfully passed. Obviously, we aim for 100%, but we can't guarantee everything. But you're going to get set up start to finish and essentially go through the IAMED Black Wolf, Flight Academy. And what we kind of think and feel is how we set up a new crew member for success. And once again, this just provides the fundamentals and the ground foundation for which you to continue to expand upon when you get back to your agencies. So with that, I just want to say, Chris, you got any closing thoughts or any ideas that I kind of missed or did not cover with this?
No, just on that. For example, with the medical, when we look at patient loading, so we have planned in, I don't do run, crawl, walk, run. I do one speed, which is the safe speed, the speed we should always do it at. So we'll do the introduction to the aircraft. So it is a real aircraft. Real things can happen. We'll look at, with your guys, the patient loading. We'll do it with it all turned off. Then we'll do it with maybe the APU running, so we've got the noise and the rotors, and then we're going to repeat it in the dead of night, because we're first responders, we don't choose the time, and we'll do the same with no engines, with engines, and then with the rotors turning, as a crew in two, so you'll be roles and responsibilities, which will all be thought out to show people it can be done safely. Even in the pitch black, you just need to understand all of these components, which we've talked about. And then I might throw in a few scenarios here and there, just to keep people on their toes.
Yeah, and don't forget, we actually will have you guys go out and spend a day with the T. Hewitt trainer to meet the Florida requirements, or in case you do fly over water or operate over large bodies of water, you will actually have the T. Hewitt certification as well. We're going to take you out to an actual high-level dunker. This isn't just a dunker chair. This is an actual, this is the same kind of model that they use for the oil rig training and getting those oil workers certified. You're going to get dunked in the water. You're going to get flipped around in a fuselage. You're going to go through some professional training on how to survive in a water ditching. And then you're going to go through the actual evolution and get checked off and get that certificate as well. So this course packs a lot of energy into it. But the goal is as you get out, you are an astute, efficient, clinical air medical provider, and you can knock out, hopefully operationally understand what's going on. You can be a functional crew member, but also it's to elevate the industry. We have a standard Why is it the standard? Why don't we elevate that? Why don't all of our, because when you compare air medical in the United States to other countries, this is a requirement in some of the other countries. They have to have this stuff before they even day one, before they go fly. We don't necessarily mimic that here in the United States because we're considered passengers. This is where we actually turn ourselves from passengers into functional air crewmen. So thank you guys very much. Keep tuned. We're going to release some more teasers throughout. Chris, I want to say thank you very much, partner, for being a part of this. This has been a great journey, a great adventure, something we've been working on for a long time. So to see this become, actual live and coming to fruition, we're extremely excited of everybody involved. And just a reminder, the ACOS course will be open for registration later the next month, so you guys can start that now. And if you guys have anything, or if there's an agency that might be interested, just email support@iamed.us, and we'd be